Good morning, everyone. This is Sunday, July 24th, 2016. Welcome to our roundtable. The subject today is truth. Golden text, Psalms 25. All the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth, unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. Would anyone like to speak on that or on the responsive reading? Or anything else?
Well, I would like to say something. In the responsive reading, it says, there is no speech nor language, for their voice is not heard. I believe it's referring to the first two, where it talks about the glory of God, his handiwork, speech, knowledge. In other words, the fundamentals of truth are inherent everywhere. It doesn't matter what language people speak, so normal and natural to be truthful. Recognize things that are true as true. The basics of being.
Thank you. Yeah, and as you go about your day, are you seeing the glory of God in the heavens and in the firmament? Are you seeing it? You know, I think I wrote about it on the forum where Mrs. Eddy had looked at the storm clouds that were gathering, and what did she see?
The face of God.
Face of God. And that's what brought healing to the situation. So, if you see any storm clouds gathering, or if you hear of anything untoward, think of that. Right in the midst, right there, see the face of God, because it is there. This other is a counterfeit, a mesmeric belief that people believe in, and then they seems to be manifest. But as a scientist, we can dispel that illusion. Right in that very place is the presence of God.
Now, another thing, the word firmament. Mrs. Eddy has in her definition a line of demarcation between truth and error. In other words, there is a distinction to tell wrong from right, false from true. The firmament, which is it, draws that line between truth and error. Standing with that, you can see God's handiwork correctly.
Thank you. Florence?
No, I was going to say, this is what you previously said, is when we go everywhere with the truth in thought, the truth about ourselves, the truth that we've learned about ourselves through what God is, then, you know, it helps you see the error quickly. And of course, it is the truth that destroys the error. So it's just being ready with the truth wherever we go. I read something this morning about Churchill, how he said that we will fight the enemy everywhere, in the streets everywhere. And that is what helped them to overcome them. So I guess we have to be prepared the same way with our sword of truth wherever we go. And this way we are able to overcome this powerless so-called power.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Everywhere we go. You can't pick and choose and say, okay, I'll think the truth, you know, while I'm sitting in my prayer chair, but not when I'm at work, or not when I'm on vacation, or various places. You have to make sure you're knowing and seeing the truth everywhere. That's the consistency that is needed.
Also, I was thinking about the golden text, which I think is even more rewarding to all of us, to everyone that gives us commandments. He says those that give his testimony, those that live their life, those that express in God on a daily basis. This passage is tend to wipe away the fear. In this time period of time, where people are surrounded with all kinds of man-made fear, man-made horror. see every day on TV and everywhere. But it's telling us that God will keep us in all our paths, all our ways, only if we keep His commandments.
Thank you. Yeah, I love those two verses in responsive reading, those 7 and 8. It tells you what God's law, God's truth does for you. The law of God is perfect. And so what does it do?
Converting the soul?
Converts your soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure. And so what does that do?
Makes wise the simple.
Yes. The statutes of the Lord are right. What does that do?
Joyces the heart.
Joyces the heart. And the commandment of the Lord is pure.
Lightens the eyes.
Yes, so think of those things that it does, this truth. Converts your soul. It makes you wise. It rejoices your heart. And it enlightens your eyes. All those things the truth does for you, if you accept it and take it in. Now, we've talked often about taking the synonyms and applying them to yourself. And I want to go in more deeply with that. We seem to get to a certain point and then have to stop. So I was thinking this week to say to myself, I always work with synonyms every morning, not just for myself, but I use it in watches as well. So I was taking a little different approach to it. For instance, you can say that you are the daughter. We know that we are the daughter or the son of the king. So you can say you're the daughter of truth, or you're the son of truth. Or those of you who like to be genderless, you are the it of truth. And that might sound funny, but some people like to do that. I mean, they prefer not to identify with he or she. So, but I'm going to identify with daughter in this case. Okay, so I'm the daughter of truth. So what does that mean to me?
It means you're honest.
Thank you.
I'd be able to.
Go ahead.
I'd be able to identify the truth in others and not be defrauded.
Very good. Yes. If you're working with synonyms, you should know what to do. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I feel that it identifies you as having that attribute from God.
Yes, it does. But in many ways, and some of you have mentioned it, to honest, to know that you can't be defrauded, to know that you can discern right from wrong, to know that you have this spiritual sense within you that knows what is right. The truth is within you. You can accept all of the laws of God readily because it is within you. This is being the son or daughter or it of truth.
Another one is you're faithful to God and His ways.
Yes.
Faithful to them.
You know, truth is a very important attribute, and it should be one that's in you, that you imbibe. And I think perhaps one of the most important is to discern right from wrong.
Also, it shows that you see yourself perfectly as God sees you. Because very often people tend to, have low expectation of themselves, see themselves differently. They sometimes say bad things about themselves.
Yes.
When it comes to things like I'm sick, I'm weak, I'm not capable, I'm not intelligent, I'm not talented to do anything. But does God see us that way? Well, by recognizing yourself as the daughter of God or as the son of God, shows that you recognize who you are. And that empowers you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think truth involves purity.
Yeah. That's true. It is pure. The truth is pure. There's no gray zone in the truth. It's either right or wrong.
Well, that does away with somebody wanting to bend the truth to go along with their own personal preferences, isn't it? Pure.
Someone is making a lot of noise. Please, our microphone is very sensitive. Moving around your papers or something. Sorry, Bruce, could you repeat that?
Yeah. Well, that means that no one will be wanting to bend the truth so they can manipulate things to go along with their own way.
Right.
Their faithfulness is to God, not to personal sense.
Yes, any form of manipulation. I mean, that's a form of dishonesty. That's something you should discern, be able to discern when you are the daughter of truth with a capital T.
Discern means to be able to tell the difference, right?
Yes.
Like, I think Solomon, there's a famous prayer of Solomon that he prayed for the understanding to discern between good and evil. That's what he wanted. He had a kingdom, he owned the whole world, but this is all that he wanted.
Yeah,
An understanding heart,
right.
that he might discern. Is that what you're talking about when Benjamin was saying, oh, I can't do this, I'm not talented, I'm weak, You put yourself down and discern that as being the devil, that's evil. Get it behind me, and just focus on being a son of the truth.
Yes.
That's what you mean?
That's what I mean.
I know.
It's a good explanation. Yes.
That feels better.
You can discern the wrong thought from the right.
And truth is strong.
It is strong. It decapitates errors. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, and truth is stronger than strong. Truth is all the strength there is. In other words, there isn't anything else that has any strength at all. If it's not truth, not only is it weak, it has no strength at all. Think about this. When you recognize yourself as a child of truth, when you devote your every day to living the truth, to learning more about God and His truth, when you spend every day obeying the commandments of God, which are the truth, you have all the strength there is. You have infinite strength. Because there's nothing that can oppose it. Although it's evil, the devil will try. But when you know who and what you are, you also know that the evil, those thoughts that come to you that are wrong, have no strength. And that is the dominion that God has given us. God, truth, has given us. I mean, think of it. This is incredible, what we're dealing with. Why Mrs. Eddy warned us, you can't dabble with it. This is science. This is the laws that govern the universe.
So wield the sword of truth in your life to decapitate error. Wield it.
It's a two-edged sword anyway.
Yes, it is. And what does that mean?
It kills the error and states the truth.
Yes.
Doesn't matter which way you swing it. It's going to
That's right.
decapitate anything in its way.
And I was thinking about one guy was talking. When he said something there that struck me. I think the biggest challenge is being able to live the truth, because there's no room to say, okay, I'm going to live the truth today. Tomorrow we'll do the other way around. It's something we have to do every day. That's a big challenge. I mean, we have to face it. We don't have any choice. We have to live it.
Live it.
If you're not living it, You're not obeying God.
And that goes back to what I guess was Dede was saying. You have to be honest yourself and truthful with God. You can't mock God. You can't try to fool him or, say you're doing something that you're not doing. Hypocrisy, that's another thing that truth decapitates. You can't be a hypocrite. Truth will know it. Now, what if you find yourself in a lie? It could be a lie you've woven by telling lies, or it could be a lie that you're miserable or sick or that kind of a lie. Yes? So what do you do?
On your knees and ask for forgiveness.
Yes, to that, absolutely. That's the first thing you do. And then the second thing?
Find the people that are harmed by it and make amends.
Yes.
And even getting back to God is my mind.
Yes.
So you can't be thinking these.
Yes, and then you start, after you've done that, which is extremely important, you make your amends, but then you start wielding the sword of truth. You start knowing what is true. You get back to the truth. You don't dilly-dally in it. That's why I love that statement that I've mentioned often in this week's lesson. The eternal truth destroys what mortals seem to have learned from error, and man's real existence as a child of God comes to light. So, whatever you might have seemed to have learned from error, whatever that is, whatever your background was, how horrible it was, and we all have our horrible stories, the eternal truth will destroy what you seem to have learned from that. And your real existence as a child of God will come to light. Now, I've worked with that statement for years, for myself, for others, and I know it is powerful. It does work if you apply it. If you don't apply it, it won't work. This is what Benjamin said. You have to live it. You have to use it. So if you feel like you've had some terrible past or something's been done to you or you're in the middle of a lie and you keep going on with it, well, then the eternal truth, of course, won't destroy it. But if you start knowing the truth about yourself and the situation and start declaring it consistently, it will obliterate it. It will. I swear to it because I've been there and I've done that, and it works.
It does. And it gives you courage.
It gives you courage to go on.
Necessary courage.
Yes. Truth is courageous.
That is why we have to have moral courage to live the truth. And if you find yourself in a lie, as Mary was questioning, and I mean, it could have been a lie that you only discovered recently. You've been living a lie. You thought you were moving along just fine, in the human mind, and all of a sudden you realize, ooh, Never be afraid to expose the lie. Never be afraid to get it out in the open and, say, if it was a lie of my own creation, I made a mistake. If it was a lie of just, believing wrong things, well, I believed something for a long time and it turns out it was wrong. Never be afraid to expose the lie, because oftentimes we're embarrassed, about having lived a lie or having, been fooled or having done something really bad or whatever.
Told lies.
Told lies. It can be horribly embarrassing sometimes to admit that something is a lie. Something that I was living, something in my life was a lie. However, it was never part of you. Don't ever personalize it as either you or anybody else. Get it out, see the impersonal nature, and it will be the most cleansing thing you can do.
Yeah, I would like to say about Connie, I'm talking from Hamburg, even happens here. It doesn't even only happen in the States. even here, I mean, I was in a terrible situation where I was hiding something, and I realized it was not good to do that, and the whole situation harmed myself a lot, because not getting kind of diplomas that I needed to get, or things really bad turned out, and well, I decided to tell the truth about it. I was very embarrassed and very, very low in spirit, but I can say that it really, it took the weight from me, some kind of weight that was heavy on my shoulders. I mean, running around with the lie. And when I took it off, I mean, from there only I could start to become a full person again.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
You're right.
And I think we can all relate to that.
Yes.
Yes.
If you've ever told a lie, it's a huge, huge burden. And then you end up telling more lies.
And I think often the reason why you feel like, oh, I can't say it or whatever, is that you think you're the only one in the whole wild world that did such a thing. And yet, you know, to think that if it's an error, then it's plaguing people probably all over. So you're coming out to really do something about it impacts whatever influence it appears to have everywhere.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God we have a church too that not only help us do it, but then we can give testimony as much others. Amazing thing.
Thank you. That's true. Our testimonies are very humble. People, you know, really say what they've been through. They're not full of pride about how great I am, but you're humbly sharing with others, and that meets the other's heart, and it meets their need.
Because it's how great God is.
And that's also what I was going to say about pride, because that's what will keep you, I know that's what kept me at a certain point from sharing things that I did wrong. It was like I couldn't do anything wrong, but other people could. So if I made a mistake, I didn't want to say anything about it. So that's something I've learned since coming here that's been so helpful.
It's absolutely. So such a relief to just get it out there, know it's no part of you, and that, you know, others have it, struggles too, and to try to make yourself appear, because that's all it is false appearance, superior to others, is another very great burden. And it also leads to great fear, because you're always trying to hide everything. It's an awful way to exist.
Also, living the life of lie, try to put up positive picture when you know inside your heart that it's not that. The situation is not healed. And the worst part of it is that you're mocking God. You're thinking that God is not all intelligent. He doesn't know. He does. I mean, I'm just fooling myself when I'm doing that. And it makes that case most unhealable, because God will not hear me because I'm not being honest about it. How can He help me if I'm not being honest about our life? It's very dangerous.
Yes, and what does Mrs. Eddy say? Dishonesty is what?
Weakness.
Which?
Forfeits divine health.
Yes. And honesty is what?
Spiritual power.
Power, yes. So remember that and blazon them on your forehead. Honesty is spiritual power. Dishonesty is human weakness, which forfeits divine health. Like Benjamin said, if you're living a lie, you cannot help. You cannot be helped until you admit to it. Mrs. Evans used to say she could help anyone except a liar.
There's a funny thing about honesty and truth also. I grew up from the circumstances totally friendless, and now I view myself as having too many friends, and it's not because I'm always nice and sweet, but try to be honest, and I think it comes from that. The only reason I say I have too many friends is that right now I don't want the human connections, but on the other hand, the good thing about human connections is then one can share science with them.
Well, that's right. You know, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. and God brings people into your life that you can bless.
And you don't have to fear human connections. That's another misconception in the Christian Science culture. You don't necessarily have to fear it, but you do have to uplift it.
And those who need to go will go.
Yeah, if you're living, they do go. Yes. Yes. Don't waste time on those that you can help. All of that is personal sense of things, personal sense of friendship or enemies or whatever. You impersonalize, see them as children of God. And if they're not to be in your life, God will remove. God removes properly whatever is offensive. Truth removes properly whatever is offensive. So last week we had the lesson on life, and I would just like to go over a little bit on what that means to be the child of life, I will say. And each week now, as we go through the synonyms, we will talk about what it means. So since we didn't talk about it like in this way last week, what does it mean to be a child of life?
Joyful, vital, strength.
Thank you.
Yeah, to be awake, alert, to feel like you have a purpose.
Not here to demonstrate that.
Yeah, right. Right.
Also, the animation is given by God. It's not willfully driven.
Thank you. The divine energy.
Health even, health. Yeah.
Yes, I believe that could be true. Health, life, because it's immortal life. Immortal life, that is a state of health. And it's not in matter. It's not in your material body. Your life is in God. That's why we declare that every morning. So it's essential. It's vital, as Florence said, vital to know your life is in God, not in body. Otherwise, you're at the whim of all these human beliefs, and you'll be experiencing a bad dream. You don't have to.
Also, it means you have a place in this world, and you have healthy activity to do.
The word liveliness keeps coming, that it's not dull or boring, but it's always something new and being ready to do something different.
Thank you.
Also,
Not dull and boring.
Complete, let me use the word, absolute understanding of it actually gets you off the sick bed, also get you off from your bed in the morning, get you on the feet to do what you're supposed to do to help yourself and help your fellow man.
Thank you. The right sense of life, he said, it can get you out of sick bed, it can get you up in the morning, help your fellow man and what you need to do. Life, liveliness, that divine energy, that purpose. Identify yourself first thing with it. Lauren?
Yeah, I think it's a good one to use when that sense of, feeling depressed or unhappy or sad comes. It's a great counterfacting fact for that sense, that false sense of sadness, which I hear sometimes from people.
Thank you. Yeah, in that life, there's no depression. The opposite of depression is expression. And that's the expression of life.
And I think what you mentioned is, Florence, is unfortunately extremely prevalent. There are people who don't know what their purpose in life is, and that is why so many people drug themselves one way or another. And it's a matter of just not knowing what the source of their life is.
Mrs. Eddy says to drink with me the living waters of my life purpose. That is to demonstrate and to share science with others. Certainly not a perfect quote, but that's the gist of it. We all have that opportunity to drink with her, the living waters of her life purpose. And I know that made all the difference when I came to this church and found a divine purpose to my life. Everything changed. My health, finance, my emotions, everything changed. God is my life. Period. Don't anybody try to tell me different.
Well, in fact, you should try, because it won't work.
Well, it won't cross the line, that's for sure.
All right. Got to be strong with that one.
Also, I was thinking when God was talking about that purpose in life, many times, especially this time period, people have really good purpose or maybe vision what they know they want to do, and they know very well that that's what will make them happy, and to probably reach out to as many people as possible. But when you let the things like or the urgency of life come in and you push people away from that purpose into things, they think, oh, I need to do this, I need to become this, because they wanted to buy this and they wanted to become this. And they forget about that life purpose. And deep down, they know they are not doing this. They're not fulfilling life.
And that is what kills. That's what kills. You're killing yourself when you haven't found your life purpose. You're killing your soul and your body. But when you find that life purpose, it's like you've hitched yourself to a star. It's like you've attached yourself to the source of your being. And all of that fades away. So if you find yourself in a muddle, go over what's your purpose. What has been your purpose? What do you need to do? Find God as your life, and you will be lifted up out of whatever it's claiming, a sickness, a depression, whatever. It will lift you up and out, just like a crane would come and pick you up, take you out of a situation. So I was reading today in Precepts where Carpenter was saying, we've all been given divine talents to be used in God's purpose. All of us have. And he says the difference with Mrs. Eddy and others is that Mrs. Eddy knew that these were divine talents to be shared and used to bless mankind, while other people get distracted and either don't use them or start doing something that they weren't created to do.
Or they get selfish and they try to use them for selfish purposes.
Yeah. Just make a lot of money or just be content on your own self rather than helping others. Now, there's one thing in the Bible that I wanted to mention in this lesson, then we'll get into science and health. We're going to mainly save these Bible stories for the fall, when some of them will come back again for our Bible study. In Ephesians, it says, but speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. So what does that mean to speak the truth in love?
Well, what good is it if you tell something is true, you drive it down somebody's throat so they just repel against it?
Thank you.
That's not a good picture.
Start instruction about how you rebuke.
That's right. That's right. It's a mistreatment of truth. This truth is precious. Shouldn't we love it and embrace it, see others as doing the same? Therefore, when you open up your mouth, it should be love expressing itself.
Without the love, it won't reach the heart anyway.
Got that right.
Without the love, you're wasting your time. You shouldn't do it. You're a sounding brass and a tinkling cymbal. So just be quiet if you don't feel the love.
And how do we know the truth? Isn't it our spiritual sense? Isn't it our consciousness? And our consciousness has to be full of love in order to hear the truth. So they really do have to go hand in hand. Because this sentence follows Paul's instruction that we be no more children tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning and craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. Those are hearts that are not full of love. They're selfish, trying to deceive. But our heart, when it is full of divine love, will hear the truth very clearly. Will be able to impart the truth very lovingly.
One of the wonderful things about these synonyms, they are distinct, each in its own right, but they also are interrelated. And truth needs love, love needs truth. They all need each other. I mean, wisdom is important, the qualities of mind is important in truth and in love. They all can be interrelated as well as individually standing on their own. So,
the completeness, being child of the truth.
As Paul says, prophecies will fail, tongues will cease, knowledge will vanish. Only love never faileth.
Thank you. Exactly right. And that book that I guess is it Fairley's been studying, that The Greatest Thing in the World by Henry Drummond, is wonderful on that. It's the greatest thing. When you are on your so-called deathbed, you're not going to say, I wish I spent more hours at work. It's always the love that you've expressed in your life and that you will continue as a child of God because there is no death. But if you believe in that mortal sense of life, it does seem to come to sometimes a tragic end. That's the Adam dream. You don't need to go there because it's not your inheritance as the daughter or the son of the king, the capital K. That is your inheritance. Okay, what about expect to heal? This is number 9 in Science and Health. Expect to heal simply by repeating the author's words, by right talking and wrong acting, and you will be disappointed. Such a practice does not demonstrate the science by which divine mind heals the sick. So what does that mean?
Hypocrisy. Yeah, hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy. But I'm telling you, this is what I would do. I would just repeat the author's words. I thought somehow that had some magical content to it. I could just repeat her words, good things would happen. The reason I read this is it's extremely a prevalent misconception of Christian science. And here she's saying, that's what you think, you're not going to do it. So what is she saying? What do you have to do?
Live it. Even live the smallest truth you understand. Instead of just the
words.
Live it and love it? Yes. And what Florence said too, the smallest truth you understand, you apply it in your daily life.
You have to be convinced of it.
Well, you should be, but you can't be convinced until you start to live it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mrs. Eddy said, the best sermon ever preached is truth practiced and demonstrated by the destruction of sin, sickness, and death. So, if somebody is practicing and demonstrating, doesn't even say anything but the fact that they've even opened their mouth at all. So the best sermon ever preached is somebody doing it, not talking it.
It's amazing, really, to me. I did it, how much you can go just saying the words and not even spending any time in actually putting it in practice. That what does it mean to say, God is all, for example, or God loves me, for example. I would just be saying them, but not really taking it in. I don't know. It's self-deception, really.
Thank you. No, that is so true. And this is the crux. This is what I'm getting at, because it is so easy to do that. I did it for years and had no idea I was doing anything wrong. Somehow I thought just saying it, I was being it.
Yes.
So I could say, God is love, but I would be resenting someone. Well, that doesn't coincide.
Your heart has to overflow while you're saying it and thinking it.
It has to be felt.
Has to be felt, yes.
And again, lived. You have to make the connection with the words to your life. And if you haven't done that, then you're not doing it.
And what you live each day shows what you really understand. Because if you live the most truthful, the most honest life you can, that shows how much of truth you understand. Now, none of us knows everything there is to know about God. So none of us knows all of the truth that there is. So it's not like anybody, living the perfect life all the time. So, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a heart that is striving to live and love better. And that is what heals.
And that is getting this false sense of self out of the way and letting God use you. Your true individuality. And again, this is one of the reasons that the Carpenter books are so hugely important, because they show you how Mrs. Eddy used the science by her example. And I had never read anything like that until I got the Carpenter books. And we need to know it. And she knew that too. She wanted someone to write a good biography about her. Carpenter did. So, if you what?
Sorry, go ahead.
If you find you are just saying the words, then get in your closet and start living it. Is Tom here today from New York? Okay, well, I always love his story where he said he would read the lesson in the morning and then go out to work and start worrying. I mean, that's just a prime example of how it works, because I did that too. I'd read the lesson, I'd say those words in the morning, and then I'd go out and be scared to death of everything. There's no excuse for that after a point, in science. And especially if you've been here where you're learning the correct teaching of it.
Okay, but there can be stumbles along the way, can't there?
Oh, of course.
Of
that's
course
what Gary
there
is saying. Yeah.
There will be some. The devil's going to throw every monkey wrench he can find at you to keep you from growing. So get used to it. Get over it. That's why it requires courage. It requires moral courage. It requires discipline. Nobody said it was easy.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people do sound like they want this thing to be easy. How come this isn't easy? Well, some things aren't easy. In fact, we're told all things that are worthwhile are not easy. And you know what Florence said about the self-deception, where you're saying the truth. You think you know the truth. You think I have so many people I know the truth. I've done all this reading. I know this and that. And yet they've demonstrated nothing in their life. So I tell them to shut up. And I mean that, shut up. And I'm not necessarily talking to them. I'm talking to the era that's self-deceiving them. Because when they're so self-deceived, they will not listen to the truth. They think they know it. They're the vessel full. That is self-deception. And this is what truth, the synonym truth, will decapitate. Self-deception, self-mesmerism. When you chant Mrs. Eddy's words, chanting them, saying them like rosary beads, that's self-deception. Stop it.
I don't believe that we cannot overcome the temptation of not living it. I mean, it's difficult, but I think we start to do it step by step, not putting too much on us. I mean, like you can't with a whole science and health and try to transfer everything from page to page. But one word at a time is enough. If you can leave that one word throughout the day, you have done a good job.
Yes. All you can do is the best you can. And as Florence said earlier, whatever little bit you know, you take. That's the mustard seed. And you grow from that. And you don't be discouraged, because now the next, and number 10, a little understanding of Christian science proves the truth of all that I say of it. Because you cannot walk on the water and raise the dead, you have no right to question the great might of divine science in these directions. Be thankful that Jesus, who was the true demonstrator of science, did these things and left his example for us. In science, we can use only what we understand. We must prove our faith by demonstration. And that's another really important point, because I often hear people say, well, how come I don't know how to do this? And how come I don't know? And how come I just don't get it? Well, again, I say, shut up. And I'm saying that to the era.
That's right.
I know it's not allowed even to say that to school anymore, but you got to be tough with Era. You don't let it just tell it to shut up. It doesn't matter that you can't walk on water. That's what she's saying here. Be grateful that someone else could. You take what you know. You use what you know, and you stop whining about what you feel you don't know. Because that has been a big stumbling block for people. And that's just mental indigestion. You're sitting in your chair reading, studying. You're trying to do calculus before you figured out subtraction and addition.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what I said about, the smallest truth first. Just make sure that's in your heart. You're living that. And then more comes, and then more comes. But I knew a lady who could recite the whole of recapitulation. It's amazing, really. And and yet a mess, total mess. I mean, the whole of, I was amazed, but here she was, she could say the whole thing, not looking at the book. I mean, she couldn't see anyway, but she could say it all. But amazing. So it's not about how much study or all that. Is that simplest truth true to your heart?
One word of truth is equal as powerful as a whole book of truth. When understood, I was reading the story in the Bible in the lesson. The man who was sitting in the front of the temple, who was asking for help from people who goes in and out of the temple. When Peter and John, right, came in, I was about to go in. They didn't read the whole scripture to him. All the statement was in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Rise up and walk. And that was all it took.
All it took.
And God was less than a minute.
Right. Yeah.
Take care of the whole problem.
That's another way when someone will call and they keep, well, what do you have for me today? What do you want? What am I supposed to study today? They keep wanting more and more and more. Well, what have you done with what I gave you yesterday? It's not just a matter of accumulating. This is unfoldment, not accretion. Accretion is just getting more and more and more and more as if that's supposed to be some magical thing to do. This is unfoldment. You practice the little that you've known, and you keep practicing it until you grow from that point. Mike, did you want to say something?
Yes, what I wanted to say was that this is what I love about Plainfield and the studies and the roundtables, is that learning how to apply these things so I'm not simply repeating them mindlessly, which is all I knew in the past, which works sometimes but not scientifically. But then the beauty of this is that then when you get to hear the testimonies on Wednesday night, it empowers one to not give up on holding to the truth, because then one knows that it will work however long it takes to get there.
Good. Right. Persistence wins the crown. So we were talking about that the other day, about it's your persistence in all things that will get you there. That quote, it says it's not talent, it's not genius, persistence. And I will say this, saying the truth to yourself is certainly better than saying error, that's for sure. So that is a step in the right direction, but let it go from just words to living it. Gary, did you?
And this is why we need to be careful that we don't think that studying so much is the answer. Studying is important because it's like tuning your violin, as Mrs. Evans used to describe. But once your violin is in tune, it's time to play it. If you keep tuning your violin and thinking that you're actually playing it, you are deceiving yourself. So once you've studied, once you've got your thought ready to go and you have things to do, go out and do them. And do them to the glory of God.
And if you don't, you will find anxiety setting in because it's disobedience. You can't just sit and read and read and read. And, you know, you'll start feeling very anxious and upset and got to go live it. And once you do, you're going to feel so great. You know, it's like being afraid to jump into the pool, afraid you can't swim. Well, then once you do and learn how to swim, you say, wow, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? So do it now, please.
As someone said, if you can put the gas in the car, but if you don't start it, it won't go.
That's right.
You sit there.
You just sit there, and that's no fun. Okay, I'm going to close today with, in miscellaneous writings, it's a poem that I love. In fact, I've had it in calligraphy and framed, and it's on 338. Thou must be true thyself, if thou the truth wouldst teach. Thy soul must overflow, if thou another's soul wouldst reach. It needs the overflow of heart to give the lips full speech. Think truly, and thy thoughts shall the world's famine feed. Speak truly, and each word of thine shall be a fruitful seed. Live truly, and thy life shall be a great and noble creed. A lesson on truth.
Amen.
See you all for a wonderful service.
Beautiful.
Thank
you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on again.